There's so many nuances in different situations that are different, but I would just say across the board, my strong held belief is that any human, regardless of gender, can choose what they want to do with their life. If you don't choose to be a parent, you should not be forced into parenthood, financially or otherwise.
That doesn't actually make sense, though, because...
Why?
Because your argument is about consent.
That's what I'm saying is that's what I'm saying where it gets messy.
So wait a second. It wouldn't actually matter if a guy was with his live-in girlfriend or even his wife.
Yeah.
And they were banging every single day unprotected.
Yeah.
He just has to not consent, right?
Right, but that's true. At the baseline, you have to draw the line somewhere, so it is true, and that's where it gets more into, it's honestly just going to make that man look like an asshole. If he was there for her full pregnancy and acted like and then he abandoned her, he's going to look like an asshole, but I still think,
okay,
I mean, I don't think it's morally okay, but I think it's legally, you have to draw the line somewhere, and I do believe legally no one should force anyone to be a parent, because truthfully, some people aren't meant to be parents. They don't want to be parents.
We're not talking about him being a parent. We're talking about extracting support from him.
I understand that, but like that is financially support. Like you can choose, do I want to financially support a new life? Do I want to emotionally be involved with them? Like there's many levels to parenthood, but sending a check is some level of helping parenting. So you should be able to choose at any point in time, even if you're a fucking asshole and do it after
to make sure I got this right,
you can still do it.
Since it's based around consent.
Yeah. It's morally wrong, but legally correct.
If you're married, you're with your wife, right? You're a man. You didn't consent, okay, to get her pregnant.
To having a baby,
you didn't consent to having a baby. She got pregnant with your kid, even though you know sex leads to that.
Right.
Even though you're having unprotected sex.
Yeah.
You think it should be his right to opt out from raising the kid and pay no support, right?
Yeah, I think that morally that's really shitty of him. I think it speaks a lot volumes about what a piece of shit he probably is. However, I don't think that man should for the next 18 years be forced to be into something if he didn't say to her, I'm intentionally getting you pregnant right now. I'm doing this on purpose. Like, this is what we want. Like, if he told, because you are allowed to have sex with no intention of getting pregnant. That's, I think, a human right. I don't think you should be required to breed just because you're horny sometimes. Like, luckily for me, that's not an issue now. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I think it morally sucks and would make me not like that person, but I don't think they should be financially, I don't think they should have their checks garnished. However, in the same token, they need to fuck off. They can't contact that woman. They can't be like, 5 years from now, I want to see the baby. No. You made your bed, you lied in it. Like, that was the choice you made.
I actually would support this policy for a completely different reason than you would. But I actually would support it for a totally different reason.
I gave my son
because if men could absent pregnancy any time the same way that women can, or let's just give them the first 9 months, just like as a grace period. Fuck it, right? They get 9 months just like a woman gets 9 months. Let's just say you're
Ulysses the Pagan donated $200. Woman complain of men mansplaining all the time, but that's exactly what the panel is doing, I think she means. But when you do it, it's help stop it. Get some help.
So anyway.
Stop it.
Anyway.
Get some help.
So I was saying, I think let's just give him the same 9 month grace period, okay, after the kid is born. So he doesn't have any decision the 9 months the kid's gonna be born, right? So now he has the 9 months. Now we're totally fair across the board. And then that first 9 months, he's like, I don't like this. I don't consent, and he gets to walk, right? I think that sexual promiscuity would do that, kind of overnight. So I'm kind of okay with moving towards such a policy, because I think that when women were left with the entailment of the decision of sexual intercourse and keeping the kid if they wanted to, but then could not compel a man to support them, I think that they would be a lot choosier about who they had sex with.
It boils down to two adults having open communication. That's all it is, because I hope, the people getting pregnant to have the option to choose to have these kids are adults. But I gave my son's father the choice. In the beginning, we were together. He wanted to be there. And then when it came time, while I'm pushing my child out, I gave birth to my son 6:30 p.m. 4:30 p.m., I still have a screenshot to this day of my son's father being like, I don't want anything to do with y'all. Stay away from me and my family, blah, blah, blah. 2 months later, he's back asking, can I FaceTime him? Can I see you? Blah, blah, blah. I gave him the option about a year or two. You're either in it and going to help me take care of him, or you're going to fuck off and let me raise my child.
Yeah.
So it comes down to two adults who are willing and able to communicate. And I feel like if you can't communicate why are you even having sex? Because you can't have sex without communicating.
Okay.
Wait, so just so I understand, and I do have to move this on.
Yeah.
Initially, he said he didn't want to be involved.
He initially said he wanted to be involved. He threw
then
a
he
party
backed.
with his family.
Then he kind of backed out.
Then
Okay.
I left because he was abusive. So I left
okay.
him,
All
and
right.
then, yeah.
I took some MILF.
Sorry, that was Nick who pressed that. What the hell, Nick? All right, I got to get through a couple of the chats here. So, okay, the Beacon.
It's so hot.
First off, buddy,
Very hot.
I do appreciate your patronage. We actually did ask your question. The question was, name one cis white heteronormative male who owes reparations. It was posed to the panel. Perhaps your question ought to be, I think it could perhaps have been a bit more clear. They pointed at me, and that was it. They answered your question, but just since you're spamming the chat, I'll ask it again, to be fair. The Beacon. So the question was, one second, let me just make sure I get it perfectly right. I can't even pull it up. Okay, here it is. Point to a heteronormative cisgendered white male of privilege who owes society reparations.
Ronald Reagan and trickle-down economics.
Okay, we'll go around the panel. Go ahead.
That's a good one. Point. I mean, as we someone in the room, then yeah. I guess I think that all white people and all people should be paying reparations in some way.
I feel
say
like
one person
if you are a white person who generationally comes from this country and your status wherever you are in this society was built off the backs of enslaved people, you do own reparations. If you were
Yeah, I agree with
If
that.
if you were a part of the colonization of all the original people of this
But what if
land.
what if I had a black ex-wife and took care of her for many years? And
That's a form of paying.
That's a form of reparations?
If you're respecting them, if you respect them as a person, that's uplifting a person in their community.
Okay.
Something a lot of black women don't
So
get.
then I'm exempt.
I mean,
Which is
you would. Do,
It's
am I saying you have to like go
Yeah.
send everybody
What
a
are the
monthly
reparations?
check? No, but I think reparations go further than financial. It's respect for the person as a person.
Okay.
It's,
All right.
you know, yeah.
All right, Beacon, I hope that satisfies you, dude.
Are we?
I asked it before.
We're
I
not going
asked
around the
it.
panel for that one.
I mean, okay, so, all right. Robert Tanner, end-of-life rates by men is 3.85 times the rate of women per the CDC in the U.S. White males is
Yeah.
68% of this per the CDC. If you need, confirm asp.org, putting some facts in perspective
Yeah.
Yes.
for this panel. Also curious, does the panel think this is moral, good, or right? Why are men doing this in much higher rates?
It's a great question.
Men do have a big load and weight on their shoulders to
Yeah.
be providers, but unfortunately that is a system that was set up by the men that came before them. You know, the men that built this country. I'm
it,
not
though?
saying it's
Is it,
I was
though?
gonna say, it's kind
Wait, because I actually think there's a mating pressure that is directional from women to men.
Not all
that has-
women.
Oh, but let's just say it's even 50% of women. If it's 50% of women, that would preclude, assuming there's one-to-one partnering ratios, that would preclude 50% of men from being able to get into a relationship, marry, have children, reproduce. So if women's own standard, even if it's 50%, I actually think it's more than 50%, but let's just say it's 50% of women have an expectation that men pay for first dates, men be providers, men pay for dates into the relationship. Men are just generally providers throughout the entire course of the relationship. Then how is this actually, you said, but it's because of men. Wouldn't it actually be because of women due to a incredibly powerful mating pressure that's placed on men by women?
in this society, yes, evolutionary speaking, yes, but men set up and designed the system for women to stay home and be homemakers to need that from men. You know, women weren't women for
No,
thousands of years have been homemakers.
Women
Like
set that up the opposite way.
women didn't build this country.
No, by when women demanded the right to vote and they demanded the right to enter into the workplace, they doubled the labor force. If you double something, it becomes less valuable.
Well,
The
that,
commodity becomes less
again,
valuable.
it
So-
goes.
So now you need 2 incomes.
It goes
So hang on,
person by person.
But hang on. Let me finish my argument. So now you need 2 incomes to raise a family, whereas you only needed 1 income before. So the thing that's interesting about this is, well, kind of out of the one side, you say, well, wait a second, it's men's fault because the way society is currently geared.
I wouldn't say it's your fault.
Hang
I
on,
think it's
hang on.
the
Let
people
me
who built this
finish
country's
the
fault.
argument. Okay?
Go ahead.
Because that is what you're saying, and I can explain how. You're saying, wait a second, men put us in this conditional, right? Men did this because men were the ones traditionally who were in power. It's like, yeah, and under men, we only needed 1 income to support a family. Now we need 2 because women doubled the workforce and demanded to be in the workforce. So it's like, isn't that kind of what the doctor ordered then?
Women wanting the right to earn their own money without a man, because it doesn't necessarily have to, oh, we want the right to work just because some women want to live without men. That's fine. But it completely ignores the fact of inflation and how over the years people are making significantly
women inflated
less.
the workforce. They inflated it massively. So what they did was now you have
men at war.
now you
giving her
have
some
now you have
work.
now you have a
Giving
ton
her some bucker.
of entry level women who could be paid less. And yes, there was a war, and a bunch of rich industrialists took advantage of this in order to push through an amendment that, when it was put to women to vote on their right to vote, they voted against it. Isn't that interesting?
No,
They
it is,
voted
yeah.
against it because they did not want to be interchangeable widgets with men. It was far preferable for them to live in a society where they did not have to work.
But that
I
goes
guess that-
back
that
to
is bullshit.
choice.
Oh, what's bullshit?
I will say this is where they're right, where the patriarchy of the past
Uh-huh.
and the systems in place set it up so women were looking at crack open a history book. Women were second class,
Okay.
not in politics, not in the workforce, able to earn their own money, whatever it may be.
Open a bank account.
Exactly, dress a certain way, vote.
Hang on, that's true, but
You're
they
saying
also
women
incurred
enabled it.
they also incurred absolutely no debt. They also had tons of societal privileges that
They
men
also
didn't have.
couldn't leave
Hang
the
on.
family
Hang
on.
because they were
You gotta let me
dependent.
finish an
over here.
argument.
I see
Can I
where your
finish
argument's
the?
going.
You don't even. Okay, then why don't you tell me my argument?
The whole point, though,
No,
was
no, no.
about
Let her
men
talk.
killing
Let her
them
talk.
or
Let her
unaliving
talk. Let her
themselves.
talk.
Okay.
Tell me my argument since you know it already.
You're trying to say that like women appreciate not having to work and stuff, and there are groups of
Nope,
women
that wasn't my argument. So
you
next
literally
time,
just-
since that's not my argument, next time I'm in the middle of
basically
making
said that
my
verbatim.
argument, please
Okay.
let me finish making it like I've done for you the whole night. That would be swell. Remember, there's one of me, there's tons of you. So anyway, back to the conversation we were having.
He talks to you like that?
Before, it's okay to cut me off, do whatever you want to me. If I
You
say
cut us
something
off too.
back,
cut off everyone.
You cut us off too.
There-
Okay,
how many
buddy.
how many of you are there?
You still cut us off, but go ahead.
I'm sorry. When you're having a conversation with 9
ahead,
people,
Mr. Ruffled
if you want to
Feathers.
get in the
So
conversation,
uptight.
sometimes you're going to have to be a bit aggressive. So anyway,
Exactly.
as we're having this exchange, let's try this again. Here's my argument back to you. My argument back to you is, wait a second, you're only pointing out the cons to that, not the pros. So you're not pointing out the fact that women are still the most in debt in this nation. They incur the most, well, men slightly, but they really shouldn't be. Okay? The incurrence of debt from women was not even a thing. They could hold property. They absolutely could hold property. That's a complete myth. You made it up. They totally could hold property. Yes, they could. And tomorrow you'll learn this because I'm going to teach it to you. But yes, they absolutely could. 100% could hold property.
I'm gonna be honest. I feel like you guys, like, do you really believe this stuff outside of the show? Like half of the
Yes.
stuff. Does your wife work?
My wife has a book called Occult Feminism. She's the best anti-feminist debater on the earth, on the planet.
What's it called again? I'm just interested in
What's
reading
It's called
her-
Occult Feminism.
Sounds
What's
like
her?
she's
I'm
perfect for you.
genuinely curious. What's the crux of her opinion, position?
Well, I was just telling you the crux of her opinions and positions.
Well, you weren't speaking for her. You were speaking for you. So I was just, asking you to
I think
differentiate.
they believe the same thing because they're
Yeah, what are you
very-
talking about?
Yeah.
She believes in the patriarchy.
I wouldn't be married to someone I didn't morally agree with.
Unlike whatever you have going on with your husband, mine's not allowed to go flirt with other men.
Donated
right?
$200.
He's not allowed to do that.
Enough
He's just
woman
uptight
prattle.
and jealous.
Women could own property and have checking accounts. In 1907,
Guys,
Hetty
this is,
Green
like,
bailed
silly.
out Wall Street. Crack open a history book sometime. Stop buying into feminist lies.
He's a brave and a decent man. He's a pioneer.
But do you
Thank you,
see
good
how
one.
like
Thank you, good
do you
one.
see
Appreciate
how
it.
like I mean I suppose not because of your wife. And again, you both have your similar views, but just
Me and
how.
Andrew, by the way, me and Andrew don't agree on everything.
Yes, yeah.
I haven't really talked too much. Go ahead.
No, that's good. I lost my train of thought.
Can I just say this whole thing is about suicide? Or sorry,
God damn,
I'm sorry.
bro.
I'm sorry. I forgot the word. What were we supposed to say?
Unalive.
Unalive. Sorry.
How are we
I
bringing
remember
it
what I was
back
going to
there,
say.
though?
No, I didn't
But
bring it back there.
isn't
So
that
I
what
was
we're talking about?
I was
But
bringing
I
it
thought we
to
were
a-
asking the
No,
questions
no.
still.
I was bringing it to
already
actually a
moved
lighter
on.
The
place.
conversation's
I didn't
gone past.
know.
No, I was
That's what
bringing it to a
asking.
lighter place that on the whole, it's just unattractive. Like, why wouldn't
gives
you
you the
want
ick.
women to be?
It gives you the ick.
Did he not cut me off? Oh,
Just go.
what do
Just
you
go.
know?
Finish your point.
What? Cut me off. It's unattractive when a dude is advocating for women to be in these roles, put in their place. Like, it's just not cool or hot. Like,
Why does
wouldn't
anybody
you
give
want
a flying
guy?
fuck what you think is attractive or not? Why does anybody
you're
give a
trying to-
flying
whole
fuck
thing
about
is-
what you think
this
is
whole thing
attractive?
is on the basis of mating. It's a dating show. What are we even saying? It's about men and women and gender dynamics. And for
That
a man
doesn't
to like
mean-
put women down like we're doing Harrison Bunker here, like what is this?
Let me
It's
see.
just
Let
like-
me get
but
this
that's-
right.
But you do.
Okay,
you
well,
do-
I think it's
you
unattractive.
do.
Women's liberation shit's totally unattractive. There you go. Touche.
Touche.
Yeah, the counter to it gives me the ick is also gives me the ick to the
It's
opposition.
just like makes you, not you just generalizing because I see them in the comments too. It just makes you like a loser and small. It's like, what are you so threatened by women? That
I
it's
feel
like
like it makes
again,
you-
it brings us back to the beginning. It's like you're in your power.
yeah, but I
Bro,
feel like
what
it
do
makes you
have?
small-minded and dumb to not
That's
give an
talking about
argument.
You. We can agree on something.
Yeah, I'm not sure though how it doesn't
knew
make
I'd
you
get us to
small-minded
agree.
and dumb to not give me an argument. And instead tell me about how you feel.
The argument is that not all women think like your wife. And so as a feminist, I completely support your wife and whatever her ideology is. And she can go shout that from the rooftops for the rest of her life. And I'm going to applaud her if that's how she really feels. But it also means that me, who probably has a wildly different perspective than your wife, should also be allowed to speak and also be equally as heard. And we're all allowed to do whatever the fuck we want as long as we're not harming other people.
No,
That
that's
is
not
the
true.
point.
In fact, you can't.
As long as I'm not harming anyone,
No.
I'm going to live my life the way I want.
No, even
I'm not harming
even
anyone by
now,
doing my
you
life.
would not advocate that that is true. For instance, okay, in the middle of the night, you know nobody's around. Okay, you know it for sure. You blow through a fucking stop sign. Okay, even though there's nobody around, is a cop justified in stopping you?
I mean, yes, he is, but like,
Well, I'm sorry, but you didn't harm anybody. You knew you wouldn't. Didn't even have the potential to
but
harm
that's
them.
the thing, though, is you actually don't know. That's the whole point of those
No, no,
traffic
no,
laws.
you
Is
know.
you don't know if you're going to harm someone.
You
Because if the
do
light's
know.
red, you don't necessarily know if someone's coming around the bend.
You
That's why it's
know.
red.
This particular one,
That's-
you know. You're in a 2-stoplight town, man, and you know there ain't nobody on the road. You know 100% there's nobody there.
Yeah.
And within the confines of the hypothetical, is he justified in pulling you over?
Of course.
Of course. So
Yeah.
if he's justified in pulling you over, then no, you're this idea of I can do what I want as long as I hurt nobody
But
else.
the thing is, by
that is
by
not
obtaining
that is not
a
how
driver's
society
license,
works.
I agreed to those rules of
Wait,
society.
you need a driver's license? I thought you could do whatever you want unless it's hurting someone else. Why can't you drive without a driver's license? You're not hurting anybody.
You are, because in order to get a license, you need to learn to drive. The
Why can't you
definition
learn to
of
drive
driving
without a
without an
license?
education.
I'm sorry, you
without-
can't learn to
Well,
drive
that's
without a
the
license?
whole. I think the whole point is
No,
we don't
hang on.
know
Let
what
me
is a
finish the
good
argument
solution.
with
No,
her.
you
Hang
keep
on.
cutting me off. Like the point of
She cut you off.
Actually, she's furthering my point, and I really appreciate what she said. You're cutting me off. Anyway,
He was trying to let you finish, just for
I
clarity.
was trying to let you finish. She cut you off. You
Go ahead.
blame
I
me.
interjected.
Go ahead, go
I
ahead.
did interject.
I
ahead.
appreciate Liza's interjection, and
Well, I don't appreciate her interjection, but
Okay,
anyway, go
well,
ahead.
we're not- So my point is that like if you just get behind the wheel of a car and you've never driven one before, it's likely you're going to crash it. So anyone should have the right to drive as long as they learn to drive. Anyone should probably have the right to own a gun as long as they know how to use a gun and they don't have a history of murdering people with guns. Like, we should have the right to go after whatever life
thing
we
with
want.
safe
But
sex
like, do I want to be a
education.
heart surgeon? I don't. But like, let's say I wanted to be a heart surgeon. I should have every opportunity in this world to become one. Does that mean I get to just call myself one? I still have to learn how to do it, or I could harm someone's body in the process. So in order to not harm others, I need to get educated before I
see.
take on that role.
So
but
to
we
get
should
this-
be able to do
so
whatever
to
we
get
want.
this right-
But some things in the world you need education to do.
Yeah, so to get
but
this,
you should have the right to educate
got
yourself.
it. So to get this right, here's your actual argument back to you. Okay, you should be able to do whatever you want as long as we tell you you can do it. You can do whatever you want as long as you have a license and you go through the proper authorized authorities to tell you now you can do what you want.
Right.
You believe that with licensing, medical licensing, private licensing, licensing for guns, licensing to drive an automobile, licensing to fly a plane, licensing for everything. You
So you
probably
should have a
believe that you
license
should have
to have sex?
licensing to own a home because after
No,
all,
I don't, because
No?
owning a home isn't going to put me in jeopardy of killing other people. Doing open heart surgery when I have no knowledge on how to do it could make me kill someone. That's
Wait.
the difference. Yeah.
Everything you do in life can have the potential of a negative ramification to harm somebody else. Everything.
And when I'm talking about harming,
hang on. Let me finish my point. Everything you do in life has the potential to do this. If that is true, and you have to agree with me that that is true, what you're actually not saying to me is you should be able to do whatever you want as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. You're saying you should be able to do anything you want as long as we collectively feel that your potential to hurt other people is mitigated. And so that actually requires rigorous government interference and rigorous not letting you do what you want.
It's not letting you do what you want. It's preparing you to do what you want. If you want to fly a plane, I think no matter if you're a woman, if you're black, if you're whatever age, as long as you pass the physical test that says, yeah, you have the eyesight and hearing abilities or whatever, and you're not going to jeopardize other people's lives on the plane. If
Quadruple
you pass
amputee?
What was that?
Quadruple amputee?
I mean, they probably
Just
couldn't
checking.
fly a plane.
I just want to check.
It's like, but that's what I'm saying is like,
checking.
it's just, this is like, it's so funny how you're trying to make this something like, no, like if anyone in the world wants to be a pilot or a heart surgeon, I believe they should have every opportunity to become one. Does that mean as a society we have no standards? We do have standards.
So we stop people from doing what they want?
Stop interrupting me. Shut up, dude. Stop interrupting me. So let's say
Well, you can't go for hours either.
I'm not going for hours. It's been about a minute and a half.
Go.
Anyway, so like if there is some poor person of color who dropped out of school, didn't have the resources, like grew up in who knows, they grew up in a group home, like they don't have the same opportunities as someone who grew up in a wealthy family who's going to pay for their college education, let's say. Like I think that person, if they have a dream of being a pilot, they should be able to work hard enough and be given the opportunity to learn to be a pilot. It doesn't mean that because they imagine they're a pilot, they get to be one. But if you're like, I want to be a pilot, I'm going to be like, I don't care where you come from, what you look like. Here's the resources to learn to study. And if you put your time into that and you learn and study, then congratulations, you deserve to be one.
No,
That's
Yeah,
that.
okay, but this again doesn't even begin
not stopping them from
to
being a
address
pilot,
my
it's just
argument.
teaching them to be one
Stop.
before they do it.
My turn, right? So,
Talking stick.
one more time. This is my actual argument. Try to address the argument I make, not the one that you wish I made, and then address that argument. The argument that I'm making is that is not do what you want as long as you're hurting nobody else. That is, you can do what you want as long as we license you to do it and we rigorously vet you to do it. And after we have rigorously licensed you and vetted you, then you can do it. And if you don't do it that way, you go to fucking jail. That is not do what you want as long as you're not hurting anybody else. That is sloganeering bullshit.
No, because
Bullshit
if
and
I
lies.
decided to
You
just
have-
take 20 people and get on a
Let me
plane
cut
and
you bitches
Wait.
off. STFU and try using logic. You can fly a plane without a license.
Right.
Right. So,
Without hurting
okay, so let
anybody.
me take this. I don't know if you have kids or not, but let's say you have 3 toddlers at home right now.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say a random man off the street who's never flown a plane in his life said to you, hey, I'm going to take your kids on my plane. I want to go for a joyride.
Mm-hmm.
Would you feel comfortable with that? Or would you rather go on a flight with someone who you know?
Yeah, fuck no, I'm
learned?
not doing that.
Right. Because you have standards. It's
Uh-huh.
not that no one can be a pilot, but if you're
Am
going to
I
entrust
advocating you should be able to do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anybody, or are you advocating that?
I am. And
Okay,
I do
well
think,
then why are
I
you
think
giving
that
me an
person
internal
should be able
critique?
to be a pilot. I think
Then
they just
why
need to
are
learn
you
how to be
giving
one.
me an internal critique about a position I don't even hold?
Because you're stating that by my logic, any
By
random
your
person
logic,
should be able to be a pilot.
by
and
your
that's not my
logic of you can do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anybody else is not even a standard you yourself believe. I just
is.
demonstrated it No, you believe
I
in.
think that
you believe in
person on this-
over-the-top rigorous licensing for fucking everything. What are you
No,
talking
I
about?
don't. I don't
think the
believe in
word that's
rigorous
missing here
licensing
is
for
the
owning a home.
opportunity
Like
to
you
do what
just
you
gave
want.
owning a home as an example. I don't think anyone
That's
needs
because-
to have
what
licensing
about-
to own a home.
okay,
How
what
do you
about
like to
owning-
open someone's chest and
No,
do
you
surgery?
do.
You
Listen,
should be
I'm
licensed.
trying. By the way, you cut me off when I was making that argument. No, you do believe you need a license when you own a home. For instance, if you want to add on to your home, have a structure.
Yeah, I know about permitting. I
Yeah.
worked in
Do you
real
think?
estate.
Do you think we should have permitting for that?
I mean, Santa Barbara's permitting laws, I actually highly disagree with. It depends on this. That's a very
That's not my question.
county by city
Yeah,
basis.
that's not my question. Do you think that the government should be empowered to come in and tell you how you're going to be able to zone your own house if they consider any type of public danger, even if it's just a perception?
If they perceive that the structure you're building is going to cave in on itself and kill the people living in it, then sure. That's why you have to learn to be a
they're doing
construction
whatever
worker.
they want. They're doing whatever they want, and they're not hurting anybody else.
But they are by building something they don't know how to build. That is
So wait a
harming
second,
people.
wait a second.
So,
So
they're going to
they're
learn
living
to
in their
build
own
it or
house?
hire someone who knows how, and then still. That's what I'm
Whoa,
saying.
that's
If you want to
super
add on to
weird.
your house,
That's
you
super
can add
weird.
on to your house.
So you live
but
by
you just
yourself.
need to do it in a safe way.
So you live by yourself on a hill, right? And you build your own structure. The government comes in and says, nope, you got to have a permit for that because you might harm yourself. Great. But your argument is you should be able to do whatever the fuck you want as long as you're not hurting anybody else. Who cares if they're going to harm themselves?
No, I'm saying if they want to add on to the house, they can still add on to the house. They just literally need to do it in a safe way.
So they just need
want
to
Liza talk
rigorously
now.
be vetted and licensed in order to do
For
what they
certain
want.
things in the world,
They
yeah,
should have
certain
the
things in the world
So you
are can be
absolutely
unsafe.
don't believe that people should be able to do whatever they want as long as you're not hurting anybody else.
I
Like
believe
every
if you want to add on to your house, you can add on to your house.
Every
Just do it in a safe
single
way.
example that you give requires licensing, rules, regulations, and people interfering with your life before you can do the thing that you want.
Part of not
that
being
doesn't
a
hurt
caveman.
anybody else.
We live in a
The
society.
opportunity,
That's why
having
you
the
can't
Right,
just walk
you
down
know
the
what?
street
I
and murder
agree. We
people.
live in a
We have
society. That's why I
standards.
wouldn't make such a ridiculous argument as you can do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anybody else, because that's sloganeering. That's not true.
The ideal. I think
That's
she's
taking it
saying
too
it's more of the
literal.
ideal, though, and not what.
No, it's not taking it too literal.
You're interrupting.
But it's okay.
I'm sorry, I was responding to her.
I just think that it's.
What does that mean?
Stay safe.
What does that mean?
Keep going. No, I just think that the bigger issue is that should we have free will or not? I mean, that's, you know what I mean? It depends on what you believe in that way, because I don't personally want the government involved, but that's the system we have already. So how do we work with what we have? You know what I'm saying? I don't agree. Like, I don't necessarily agree with the exact way of, I think you should be able to build something on your own property in the middle of nowhere and be able to make your own decisions. But it's confusing because not that I know the right answer, but because I don't know how to bridge this space, because it's about, too, what do you believe as moral and not? Like,
Right.
what's good and bad in your perspective? That's different for everybody. So how can you ever find a real solution? Which you're saying, which I hear, correct me if I'm wrong, what I hear you saying is go with the majority, but then what happens to the people that are not the majority?
I didn't give a position.
Okay, no, that's why I said correct
all
me if
I
I'm
was
wrong.
doing is
Yeah.
pointing out that often I hear sloganeering from people, like in this regard. People should be able to do whatever the hell they want as long as they're not hurting anybody else. But then when you test that, you find out they don't fucking believe that shit at all. They don't believe that they shouldn't be able to knock the gun out of their, kids' hands so that they don't unalive themselves. They don't believe that they shouldn't be able to smack the pills out of their daughter's hand so they can't. They don't believe for a second that they shouldn't be allowed to do that. The thing is when you take it from the conceptual to the practical, you realize, no, we really got to kind of interfere a lot in people's lives.
No, and that I totally
And we have to do
agree.
it all the time. And we have to do it for very good and specific reasons.
Yeah.
Have you ever read Atlas Shrugged?
Yeah, with Ayn Rand.
Yeah. Your thoughts?
My thoughts is that Ayn Rand was a giant cope fiend, right? She was coping the entire time that she was banging a guy who was 20-something years younger than her, because what she did was she took all the rich industrialists and she made them the heroes of the story, which is fucking insane, and then they came and saved society. So it's like the dumbest shit I ever heard in my life, but
Wow.
that's what I think of it. Yeah.
I'm trying to get to, and you may have gotten
Remember how the rich industrialists came in and saved a society from, nothing ever. Instead, they have micro-engineered and fucked it up every possible way that they can by essentially creating lobbying groups that go and commission the government to go after whatever their private interests are by fucking over all the rest of us. That's what rich industrialists usually do.
Okay. I mean, I personally think Ayn Rand is, a hero in autonomy,
No.
individualism.
So-
Well,
you don't
Atlas
believe
shrugged
in
and
all
your
that.
brain fell out, right? As the old libertarian saying goes.
So for the majority
that
who
so
don't
annoying?
agree with Christians or, your view on how this country should be, where are they left?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
So people who don't align themselves with Christian values or views with the freedom of religion in this country, where are they left being represented or
it's gonna
supported
be the
by this
same,
country?
It's going to be the same exact place where anybody would be left if they refuse to follow the rigorous morals and the tailorings that society produces for them. The
That's my
same place
fucking
that you would be
nightmare.
left in Japan if you weren't following their cultures, customs, and rituals. The same places that you would be left anywhere, right?
Is this not a
Yikes.
melting pot of a country with different values?
he doesn't
this
like
does
that.
not.
He doesn't,
This
I
does
know,
not in
but
any way.
He would do great with the
even
CCP.
Okay, so anyway,
Would he not?
what this does not in any way deter from this idea. We are a melting pot, sure. Does this mean that you
That's a good
would import tons and tons and tons of people who thought that murder was okay?
No, because that's
Right. So wait,
Not-
so if they don't coincide with your values, it's okay for you to exclude them. And so this is the thing, is like, we think the same exact thing. We think it's perfectly acceptable that if the majority has these beliefs inside of a democracy, which is what liberals claim they love, that if we take that democracy over and impose our world like liberals are doing to us, there's no problem with that.
But no, because there's no law saying murder is okay.
What would that have to
It's-
do with anything?
Because you said if, we can import a bunch of murderers into this country, they have the choice to murder and there's going to be consequences that you face.
No,
But
you're missing the idea here. Let's assume that you could import the value of murderers to the point where they became a serious voting bloc. They could then, theoretically, impose their will via democracy by voting in people who then made murder legal, right?
like Christians?
So, are you going to answer my question, or?
I'm just saying
I'm
that
sorry.
what you're
the
saying.
abortionists think the Christians are the murderers. Okay.
No.
So anyway,
no one
back
ever
to
said that.
Well, that's what you just said.
No, I didn't.
You said like Christians when I was referencing
No,
murderers.
you said forcing people to have these views, and I said
no.
like
What
Christians
I'm
as
trying-
in comparison.
Yeah, I don't know
when
why.
you said, we're going to import murderers here because
Yes, so
they'll have
let's-
a bigger influence. I'm just
Okay.
trying to finish and get this thought out. So we're going to import murderers here so they can
Mm-hmm.
have a vast influence on the voting majority. Like Christians,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because Christians, you say, are the majority, and their
or liberals,
laws should rule
or
all.
liberals, or women who are the majority, or whoever. It doesn't matter.
It's
What
not
I'm
a perfect
saying-
country for everybody, but
I
it
know,
shouldn't be
but
based off a single religion.
Why? Why not? Because you just don't like it,
But
right?
No, it goes against everything this country was built off of,
Oh,
right?
wait. I'm sorry. Who built the country? A bunch of white Christians?
With the freedom to practice religion.
Yes.
The
And if-
reason-
the
no.
laws you're voting
First of
into-
all, the reason that there was an allowance of the practice of religion, you couldn't be a Catholic. You couldn't even come to this country if you were a Catholic. You couldn't even come. The reason is because Protestantism is divided. They did not ever think that this was going to be a non-Christian nation.
but
none of our
Christians
founders ever
demand
thought
a lot
that.
of respect from people they don't respect themselves.
I don't even know what that means. What does that mean?
If you don't believe in God, you're going to hell.
So?
That goes against spiritual people. Why
So
is
what?
your religion the most important out of the hundreds out there? Why
Right.
should you be heard and no
So
one
I'll
else?
More
explain.
than the most important.
So-
Why
okay,
not
so I'm
the
gonna
way
explain
to
so that you
do
understand,
things? That's
right?
what I'm wondering.
Oh, I understand. I just
I don't think you
don't
do because
understand why you think
I'm granting
Christianity-
your worldview. I'm saying let's assume Christianity is the worst. It's like the
I never
worst.
said it was the worst.
I know. Let us assuming. We're going to assume it. Oh, you know it's not true. We're just going to pretend for a second so that we can do this hypothetical that it is. So we pretend Christianity is the very worst religion ever.
Mm-hmm.
And you import into your atheist country a bunch of Christians who tell you, we want to definitely impose our Christian will on your atheist values. Okay?
Okay.
If you import them into your democracy in significant numbers, and then they begin to multiply, right? They could feasibly, inside of your democracy, begin to elect politicians who share their values, right? And if they share their values, they're going to implement the law based on the values they share with that now largest voting bloc, right?
Okay.
So if they do that, what actually would be the fundamental problem with that?
Christians don't run America. Are you the majority? Sure. But I doubt all the Christians out there agree with the extreme right-wing views that you are portraying that they have. Because it's not all Christians, right? Just like it's not all men. It's not all Christians. There are Christians out there who love thy neighbor, right? They love thy neighbor and they love you regardless of what you choose to do, and they're not going to force you. Are they going to sit there and because they love you, their way of loving you is teaching you about their God, right? But they're not going to force it on you.
Can I? Okay, I'm going to piggyback. So this whole thing started with why do men, from a viewer question, why do men die by, you know what? No, we're not allowed to say it, at a higher rate. And I've noticed in my adult life how people, men namely, and I have many close to me, who grew up in a very highly religious, some cult-like, some, deep Christianity, have some serious
Thank you, Robert
issues now, right? Because of the confines that they were forced to be in. And as grown adult men, they can't cope. They're still figuring it out and learning their way. So I'm trying to understand how you rationalize why you can't even, I mean, I get it, you have really rigid views, but why you can't see that. Secondly,
Well, let's do one at a time.
And also,
Okay, that's fine.
let's actually do just one.
Okay.
And let's
Okay.
have Andrew answer in about a minute
So when
because I
you're-
want to move this on.
Yeah, when
okay.
you're talking,
Fair enough,
when
yeah.
you're talking about the rigidity in views, how have I been rigid? I've answered every question asked of me, dove into each worldview that you've given me, and shown where the flaws in them are. That is a lack of rigidity. That is me being completely fluid in ideology, so that I can internally critique from where you're coming from. What's really hilarious here, none of you have seemed, maybe her, right? She's a smart one because she's quiet, but I'm kidding, I'm joking. But anyway, none of you seem to be able to do the opposite for me. None of you seem to be able to put yourself
I feel
here.
like I
Hang on,
have.
hang on.
I was a
Hang on,
Actually, hold on.
hang on. I'm almost done.
And actually, none of you even get to respond because he has final word. I have to move it on. It's
Yeah.
been too long.
So anyway, none of you even seem to be able to put yourself in my shoes to hear what I'm saying, to even hear what I'm saying, because
I just
she
asked.
responded to an argument I didn't even make twice. And then when I come over to you, when you're asking me this question, you say, I don't understand. It's these Christian men who grow up in these rigid households. Okay, I'm sorry, but Christian men, they're the stability of society, least crime rate.
they're
Hang
freedom
on.
of the
Hang
No,
on. stop.
no, I'm
your
going to move it
opinion.
on.
The least-
I have to move it on.
No, I'm going to demonstrate real quick, okay? As far as crimes go, as far as commission of crimes, as far as being in poverty, as far as all of these things, those Christian men from two-parent Christian households have the best outcomes in all of those regards. The ones that come from the single mom alternative households, not so great.
What about the
Not
priests?
doing so hot.
What about the priest?
Well,
Hey,
with women,
we're-
you're
stop.
so pro
Now, by
patriarchy.
alternative, I didn't even mean
His-
LGBTQ.
No,
I'm
no,
just
I was
saying
just saying I grew up in a
anything
nuclear
alternative to the
He's just
two-parent
by
household usually
rigid.
has...
He's
Yeah.
super patriarchy. Your wife wouldn't even be able to write her book or live her
Okay,
expression.
They- all the-
In other countries, in Iran, these girls aren't even educated. They're
Women
not
have
allowed
been
to go to
writing books
school.
for hundreds of years under the patriarchy.
It's okay. We'll find a thing
Feminism
for
had some of the most prolific writers pre-suffrage. Those were the best writers. The shit writers came after suffrage. So they were cruising around with this evil patriarchy who was oppressing them, writing all kinds of books, traveling the world. They really had it rough. They had it rough. It
I
was a
do have
tough
to move
time
things
for
on.
women.
I have to move things on.